I'm Andy. Andy Soper, how are you? I realized when I was sitting over there, I was going to get up and say, if it's all right with you, I'm going to keep my coat on, because I can't tell if I'm warm or cold yet. And I realized I've lived in West Michigan too long. I was going to apologize to people for my own physical sensations. That said, if it's all right with you, I'm going to leave my coat on, because I can't tell if I'm cold or hot. I'm so excited to be here. I worked with Kent for a couple of years at Mars Hill. He would preach. I would do other things. And I've been so curious as to if he's a good speaker or not, because when you work at a church, you don't go on Sunday. So let me know. Is Kent a good speaker or not? I'm just kidding. He's a goodie, and he runs triathlons. He's sort of chiseled. I'm jealous in so many ways. Well, Kent explained a little bit about the series that you've been going through and said that this month the focus was common humanity, and asked if I'd give a few thoughts on it. And I was like, great, this sounds fantastic. I'm all about our common humanity. Isn't that the most lame response to an aspirational passion of yours? I'm all about common humanity. So I looked at your website and I said, well, what does common humanity mean? Because sometimes I struggle, and I'm like, do we have a common definition of humanity? Much less like a shared common humanity that we value. And so I read, we respect the dignity and worth of every individual. Anybody know that was what it was? If I were to add, does anybody got it tattooed on them? No? You are not C3. That's what it is. We respect the dignity and worth of every individual. And I read it and I thought, sort of like along the lines of so many mission and vision value statements, these are aspirational. I thought, I actually appreciate that. I can resonate with that. And then I thought, yeah, but you'd be the first to pull it off. To value the dignity and worth of every individual. You'd be the first in history to pull it off. I spend most of my day thinking about exploitation and slavery, which sounds weird, except that's the field I work in, is we'll call it the anti-trafficking field, right? Education and victim care and prevention and that sort of thing. I spend so much of my day thinking about exploitation and different ways to talk about it that would be enjoyable but not dismiss its, horror, so people can listen and not get overwhelmed. So when I saw that you have all figured it out, I thought, they're delusional. And I thought, no, but I want to give, again, credence to the aspirational nature of it, but I thought, right, but to actually say it or do it, to think you could do it, it's sort of delusional. And then all I'm going to do this morning is take you down the rabbit hole of the past 2 weeks of after I read your mission and vision statement of shared common humanity, or shared common humanity. I have been tripping out ever since. So here's what I think about your delusions. Number one, if I said that's your mission statement, or that statement, we respect the dignity and worth of every individual, and I said, well, that's delusional. Well, you're talking about virtues these days, correct? I YouTubed Aristotle. I have a minor in philosophy. I was YouTubing Aristotle. And I was like, okay, remind me again, what's a virtue? On one side, you've got what? Vice. On the other side, you've got? Virtue. When we're looking at the continuum to find that golden mean along the spectrum of whatever that is, if it's courage on one side, you might have cowardice, and on the other side, you'd have, what do they call it, foolhardiness? What a great word. Foolhardiness, and courage is somewhere in that continuum, right? But just the right spot. You're making just the best decision. I thought, I want to help this community understand the virtue of delusion. So I went about the process for days of identifying the edges of delusion. You ready? By the way, I'm referring to delusion, meaning idiosyncratic beliefs or impressions that exist, that we hold despite contradictory reality or rational argument. I'm not referring to it in a way that's referring to mental health, right? But just the idiosyncratic things that we're like, this thing is so important. We're being invaded by immigrants. It's just off the chart. No. If you actually look at the data, no. Right? So I started thinking, if that's delusion, holding this really belief that despite the contrary fact, we'd still have to have a virtue of delusion. So on one end of this spectrum, I have decided that a deficiency in the virtue scale would be someone who cares a lot about Kohl's cash. Okay? If you care a lot about Kohl's cash, it's fine. I will see you on December 23rd when you are getting like the 500th present because you are mindful of everybody, and I am getting my first. Like, I need to get a blender, an electric blanket, and a pair of jeans, so I'm going to go to Kohl's. I'll meet you there. But I noticed that folks that are really into Kohl's cash can focus on it to a degree that I feel is unhealthy, where there's a denial that anything else is going on. Around Christmas time, my sister, I'm pretty much talking about my sister. Well, around Christmas time, when we get flyers in the mail from Kohl's, it's like $50 of Kohl's cash. My sister lives in the UP, but she'll text me, "Did you get Kohl's coupons?" I'm like, it doesn't matter, Odd. It doesn't matter. It's not important. Delusion of the Kohl's cash end of the spectrum is denial that anything is going wrong. That I can focus so intently on something so absurd because I just have to take care of it, because I can't fix all these big problems. When we're thinking about our common humanity, I can't solve the problems that divide us, so I'm going to really focus on Kohl's cash, and I'm going to make sure that I know my path to and from my religious institution. I'm going to follow those rules because I am a good person, and we value, we honor, we respect the dignity and value of every individual. So I'm going to do the things in West Michigan that make me feel like I'm hitting that mark. And I can say, yeah, it's true, we do. We do. And I could say, well, white privilege. No. Look, we're doing the best we can here, and Kohl's has a sale, and I don't know if you need 2 electric blankets or 1. This end of the delusion scale is denying that anything is wrong or that you have any power to fix it. This leads, in the worst way, I'm going to use the word apathy. At the base of this side of delusion is apathy. Apathy got a bad name. I mean, people start to think it means we don't care. Apathy means you don't feel. You don't feel your common humanity. So when we're on this side of the spectrum of denial of Kohl's cash, we're oblivious to the deep pain of the world going around us when we're so invested in just doing the right thing that I'm a really good person. I can explain. Our motto in West Michigan is, whoops, sorry, right? I'm doing the best I can. I can't fix all these other problems. We're good people. We value dignity. We just don't know what to do to solve the problem. We're crippled over here. Now let's go to the other side of the spectrum. If down there is denial, is the Kohl's cash lady, I think over here is Willy Wonka. Anybody ever see the original Willy Wonka movie? Yeah? The gene, thank you. Think about what Willy Wonka is. Anybody remember the song? Come with me, and you'll be in a of pure imagination. What you'll see will defy explanation. Everybody, if you want to view paradise, simply look around. anything you want to change the world. There's nothing to it. I live in a world unencumbered by any code or reality. I have little orange people. That's a possibility. There's freedom over here. I can push everybody out and still live this wonderful life inside my head over here in my ivory tower that left the town unemployed. I'm not going to get into it. But this side over here has a little bit of a different type of danger for me. Over here becomes, everybody is either with me or against me. There's always an enemy. Slugworth, the everlasting gobstopper, right? If he succeeds, he'll ruin me. I love that movie. It's fine. There's always an enemy. There's always a way to do it right. I wouldn't want to give my factory to an adult. They'd want to run it how they want to run it. I want someone to run it how I would run it. There's this perpetual ego. I'm going to live forever. I'm in control of my destiny. On this side of the delusion spectrum. We build enemies on this side. If you're not with me, you're against me. And all the way over here is, I'm not with you, and I'm not against you. I just am unattached to you. Both spectrums, both ends of both of the delusion spectrum end in dehumanization. One through apathy, I don't feel you in my core as a human, your suffering, your joy. And the other side, through objectification. The world exists for my pleasure. The chocolate doesn't exist for your pleasure. It exists for me to watch you eating it, and I enjoy watching you enjoy it. Everything down here is about the self and how right it is. It's self-preservation down here, perhaps, and it's self-promotion down here on this end. But there is a virtue in the middle, right? Or on the golden mean. There's something good about being delusional because you keep coming every Sunday, saying that you value and you respect the dignity and worth of every individual. So you're a bit delusional, so I want to help you identify just the right amount of delusion. Started thinking about what would be the golden mean of delusion, and I think it's to scratch the heretic. Scratch the heresy. I love this quote by Umberto Eco. I wrote it down because I'd screwed up otherwise. The faith a movement proclaims doesn't count. What counts is the hope it offers. All heresies are the banner of a reality. An exclusion. I'm going to read that one more time. All heresies are the banner of a reality. An exclusion. Scratch the heresy, and you'll find the leper. Every battle against heresy wants only this, to keep the leper as he is. If we're going to be delusional, we need to be and say that we can respect everybody. We need to be the right amount. So if we're on this side of the spectrum, we need to scratch the heresy that says somebody is being left out. We need to point at it to pull us this direction. If I'm so hyper-focused on myself, isn't it great that you're so well taken care of? Enjoy your Easter basket full of slave candy. Sorry. Right? Cadbury eggs and Hershey's Kisses. Like, they're dancing around on the commercial, but there's like 10-year-old kids harvesting cocoa on the other side of the planet. And we're like whistling and winking at each other. M&Ms are talking, right? Hey, your life is built on the back of somebody. The system isn't broken. They're not being left out, like by accident. The people who are serving our community, unpaid, the people who are exploited in our community, that's on purpose. The system isn't broken, it is built this way to keep us distracted, to keep us from feeling the person across from us, to seeing their humanity and connected with it, and being connected with it. Far too often I catch myself what my wife calls compasturbation, which is one of two things. I don't want to limit it. It's either working for someone else so I feel good. Look what I just did. Aren't I great? I can walk away from like a soup kitchen and be like, this is great. They're still homeless, right? But I can totally forget about the fact of that, and I can just be so happy about using this other person to feel good about. And the other side of compasturbation is when you feel bad, you like purposefully beat yourself up. You realize you're such a scumsucker. Like, you buy the slave candy and you shop at H&M and like, oh, I'm so bad. Like, I need to fix myself. I'm going to do a cleanse and drink green tea or whatever. It feels good to beat ourselves up. Here's what I would suggest we do with our delusions, with the world. I'm unaffected by the world. I can charge ahead and do everything I want, and on the other side, be overly infected with minutia. I'd invite you to 1909. Rainier Rilke and the sculptor Rodin are having conversations about art, and Rilke is a really emotional cat. He has a fantastic mustache as well. Google it. But he is just like, everything is overwhelming, and he's connected. He uses the term Einfühlung, which means feeling into, and it's like hard to say and great in German. Feeling into, and he said, when I'm with someone and they're telling me a story, I feel it in my gut. And he said, and when I'm looking at a painting that I've never seen before, as I observe the strokes and the colors and the intentions and the forms, I find myself, my spirit being like pulled right up out of me, where I actually feel like something in me is in the painting. And it moves from being a painting to a work of art because it and I are interacting. All alone, without moving somebody, it isn't doing anything. But as soon as we connect, deep calling to deep, namaste, the divine in me recognizes the divine in you. That work that they did became what we call empathy. The opposite of apathy, the opposite of shame, where we're able to feel and connect. If we are to scratch the heresy, if we are to find the healthy balance of being delusional, then we have to first be able to feel what is so powerfully drawing us toward each other in common humanity. So for some of us, it might be recognizing that while we love the entrepreneurial spirit of Willy Wonka, he has these great ideas and he's creative and he day drinks, I guess, like this is a thing for him. But he's sort of a dirtbag. He shuttered his industry, brought in non-union workers, and then exploited the world for a ton of cash to retire and handed the keys off to a poor kid. And he's supposed to be. We need to recognize, I would say that scratching that itch means, no. That's like Mr. Burns doing Molly. That's all Willy Wonka is. That freedom doesn't exist because we're bound to each other. Willy Wonka didn't feel empathy with anyone. He was a narcissist. And on the other side, maybe like I mentioned before, maybe the heresy we need to scratch is our own comfort, is our own privilege, is our denial of other people, that we don't even move toward them just a little bit. The answer to our apathy, the answer to objectification of others, is to connect with them. I'm a cisgender white male, and I live in West Michigan, and the world is built for me. But about 9 years ago, a girl that I was working with ran away from the residential place I was working in. And I found out within a day, as we all did, that she was being sexually exploited by a woman downtown. And I spent the better part of a week driving around in the middle of the night looking for her, see if we could find her. A bunch of us did. I was sitting on the corner of Division and Delaware in Grand Rapids. Anybody know where that is? The old tequila lounge? You know what I'm talking about. And I was sitting at the light, and it's going red, green, yellow, red, green, yellow. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm driving around looking for this kid. I don't know what I'm going to do if I find her. What am I going to do? Stuff her in my truck? Great job. Like, great, 2 a.m., stuffing a kid in your trunk. This is going to go great, right? She's not going to go with me. Cops find her. She's not going to behave well. She ends up in the ER. And I found myself on that corner, torn open, going, I get the feeling of being lost, of feeling powerless, I am not in any way culturally powerless. I'm not in any way like socially or economically powerless. But the fact that I couldn't help, I couldn't move toward my natural Willy Wonka side and jump into, we can solve this problem, we can be creative, all the great things that Willy Wonka brings. I couldn't do that. I was so heartbroken. That situation changed my entire world permanently, to where I couldn't look away from people being exploited. It seemed so clear and so obvious, and I spent the better part of a decade kind of responding to that heartbreak on the corner. But I'll be really honest, I'm not doing great with my environmental efforts, right? And I feel way on this side of delusion with saying, yeah, I'm a good, I care about the environment. I'm probably down here. I'm probably neglecting that sort of thing. You all have your Division in Delaware moment. The thing that broke your heart open and said, I am built, that pain, that wound, I respond to it. I have to move toward it. I have to be more like Willy Wonka, creative, industrious, getting things done, imagining a world that could exist and pulling people with me. You all have that in you. You already made it a statement that you want to see the world be better and people valued and people loved. Follow that heresy that you scratched. Follow the connection that brings you to other humans, that reminds you that you're bonded, that you can't look away, and you're not independent of them. I love hearing stories from this community because you're so conversational. No one's afraid to speak. You built this community of safety, of exchange. And yet when I sat this morning in our time together, we're all carrying so much anxiety about the government and the economy and our kids and all that sort of thing. Be delusional. Believe that you can make a difference. Move toward the Willy Wonka side of delusion if you find yourself stuck back here. And if, by the way, you find yourself on the Willy Wonka side, angry at everybody for not seeing how wonderful and beautiful the world is, you might not have a 16-year-old that just started driving. Yeah, you might have more money, you might be able to pay your bills, and over here there isn't so much money to pay the bills. Move this way. Move this way on that spectrum of delirium. Today, I need to be able to rest. We can work later. I appreciate your time. I spent 2 weeks just mesmerized by a group of people that are like, yeah, we can do this for every individual. I'm in, Chocolate Man. Thanks.